Hello and welcome to the Healing Insight Podcast, episode 42, with me, Sarah Hunt.
And me, Jez Hunt.
Hello to everybody. Hello, Jay. How are you?
I'm good. Very, very good. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. I've got my Christmas tree up.
We haven't yet.
This is the first year ever that I've put it up before the 1st of December.
Okay.
I like the pretty lights. And it kind of felt right to do it a bit early this year. Although I've had a bit of flack from my son. Gareth, who was just like, Mum, it's not even December yet. Yes. But I'm doing it because I like it. So following on from last episode of
self-serving.
our podcast, the self-serving one, I've done it because it makes me happy. I love twinkly lights. I've always loved twinkly lights. So I have twinkly lights everywhere at this time of year. And I love to go when I go out with Charlie in the evenings and it's dark. I really love seeing all the lights on the houses and everything at this time of year.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet. Neighbours are.
Like I say, this is the first year ever.
Yeah.
I got my Christmas tree up so early.
Yeah.
I just got the notion to do it.
So following on from the last session where we're talking about self-serving versus selfish, I think one of the things that came up in that discussion was we were talking about drama and people getting involved in other people's drama.
Yes.
So I think today would be a good discussion to talk about dealing with drama, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we all end up with drama in our lives at various points of time, don't we? Sorry, I've just lost my train of thought. Yeah, so drama, and some people can be drama kings or queens, and other people just don't seem to have quite as much drama in their lives or deal with it in a more calm way. I think, it's very easy to get caught up in other people's dramas if we're not careful, and we need to be stepping back and looking at things and is this my drama? Is this somebody else's drama? But also we were talking about rescuing last time, weren't we, as well? And when there's drama going on, it's very easy if we're not careful to step in and try and rescue people rather than allow them to work through whatever it is that they need to work through to see the way forward.
Yeah, there's a coaching tool that I use called the Karpman Drama Triangle. And it's a model of behaviour that was derived from a guy called Eric Byrne, did a model of transactional analysis around parent-adult-child communication. And one of his students, Stephen Karpman, used or developed the tool along the lines of in terms of interpersonal conflict. And this can be external with other people, or it can be internal. We can actually do this in our heads on our own as well. We unconsciously go into one of three roles, and that's either victim, persecutor, or rescuer quite often. So you'll find that in a drama situation that you will, and if there are other actors, we call them actors, but other people in that drama, you will take on one of the roles or maybe more of the roles, and actually you can find that you're switching roles during a particular event, discussion, argument, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I've certainly worked with the drama triangle with my students as well to get them to kind of look at how easy it is to move from one role to another, and how if we're not careful, we can find ourselves in a particular role and creating drama around us or feeding that drama that's going on rather than stepping away from it and looking at it and thinking, what is actually really going on here?
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest use of this tool is to recognize when you're in one of those roles, recognize that you are in one of those roles. Because if it's your drama, then you can step outside of it. If it's someone else's drama and they're trying to drag you in, you can step outside of it,
Yeah,
which means you can then assess it for what it is and what your involvement needs to be, if at all,
yeah,
rather than just getting dragged into the heat of it.
yeah, absolutely. And it's understanding those roles, isn't it, that you can find yourself in, so that you understand where you're giving your power away, where you're not taking responsibility for the situation, where you are actually standing up and looking at things and dealing with things, where you're perhaps feeding it for someone else, rather than allowing them to take responsibility and um, deal with the situation themselves.
So, should we take a look at each of the roles and just go into a little bit of detail, just and perhaps give some examples of what the roles, how we would recognize that we're in that role, for example?
Yeah. So the victim role, to me, the victim role is when we give our power up to others, or to a situation, or it's also where we can have a lot of negative thinking about ourselves or others or the circumstances that we're in.
Yeah.
Poor me. This has happened. Poor me. That's happened. Um, when we go into the victim role, it does feel like we are taking the line of least resistance. Um, so it's kind of often used when we give up on things, um, or when we're putting our head in the sand, and ignoring things, or when we want to run away from them.
Yeah.
If you go into victim mode, you kind of feel powerless, don't you? And subject to life's events, rather than realizing that actually you've created everything yourself, um, that's happened around you, and so you need to take responsibility and actually deal with those situations.
I think that's the key. That's the key word is responsibility. If you go into
Yeah,
victim mode, you're avoiding your responsibility. You're avoiding self responsibility in your part in what's going on here. And you're absolutely right. It can be, I can't help it. It's not my fault. You always blame me. Why are you doing this to me? And it can be that it almost can become learned helplessness. It can be, we fall into that role because it's familiar. It's kind of, it becomes, even though it's not a good place to be, it becomes that sort of familiar, comfortable. I say comfortable. I don't mean comfortable as in nice and cozy and comfortable. It's just because it's familiar, we can fall into it because of the familiarity of it.
yeah,
So it's comfortable to fall into because we're so used to doing it, rather than it's comfortable to do because it's comfortable.
yes,
That's what I meant.
yes. And people that are in victim mode, um, are probably their own worst enemy when they've gone into that mode. Um, because they'll be self-critical. They they'll chip away at their own self-confidence. They might self-sabotage, and so affect their self-esteem and self-worth as well. Um, and they're wanting attention, but from the wrong direction,
Yes.
instead of actually being kind to themselves and recognizing that something's going on that they need to learn from, and they've got choices. And again, it comes back to choices, which I know we've talked about before, but we can choose to be in victim mode, or we can choose not to be in victim mode. And when we choose to take responsibility and step up and away from being in victim mode, that's that's much better for us than staying in that victim mode of poor me, nothing ever happens right for me, everything always goes wrong, and just continuing to manifest that downward spiral.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the victim. Then we've got the persecutor.
Yeah.
The persecutor um, behavior includes wanting to control others,
Hmm.
make them feel small, maybe hurt them, take their rights or their options, their personal power away. The persecutor may well have experienced being a victim at some point, and so they're trying to regain control or power over a situation in their life. Um, what else with persecutors? Abuse of any kind
Yeah.
is a form of
Abuse.
persecuted
They
behavior.
blame anyone else except, they won't take personal responsibility. Again, it's avoiding personal responsibility.
Responsibility.
They blame everybody else. It's everybody else's fault. It's your fault.
Yes,
So
I'm going to get my own back because you did this to me.
it can be
Instead of
criticized. It can be criticizing. It can be bullying. It can be intimidation. It can be, how about superiority and put downs where you've been put down.
hmm,
You don't know what you're talking about. That's all persecutor.
but it's also interrogation as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
Question after question after question, making you feel uncomfortable. Um,
they can get
Feels
angry.
that as
They
well.
can use anger in.
Yeah,
So someone who gets into an argument and gets angry very easily, chances are they're in persecutor mode, because they use anger as a mask to mask vulnerability because they don't want to feel vulnerable. So they use
yeah,
anger to counter that.
yeah,
They love punishing others, and often they have unrealistic expectations.
yeah, yeah. Both victims and persecutors have become disconnected from themselves, from their souls, from their heart, and what is right for them. Is they're not recognizing that the way to feel better about yourself is to go inward and look at what's causing you to feel so unhappy, and take some steps to address the issues and put that right, to then empower yourself to step forward as your best self again. um
But interestingly, we can be both of these
yeah,
ourselves.
yeah,
So if someone's, I don't know, shouting and criticizing me, then I could go into victim mode and say, "Oh, poor me, you're always blaming me, you're always criticizing me." And then I turn to someone else as a rescuer, which we'll come on to in a second, and then I start persecuting the person who was persecuting me to the rescuer, saying, "Oh, he's always like that, he's a nightmare, I hate him," and blah blah blah, and he doesn't know what he's talking about, and he doesn't know. You see, I'm going now into the persecutor role within the
mm,
same drama. Even
yes,
though I was the victim a few minutes ago, I've now switched to persecutor.
yeah,
So coming on to the rescuer being the third one.
yeah. So rescuers appear to be caring people trying to help. They're actually disempowering the person because they're taking their responsibility away from them,
Yeah, they're
not allowing
interfering.
them to deal. They're interfering, yeah, and they're distracting themselves probably
Yeah,
from their own stuff that actually they don't perhaps want to deal with themselves, and they're not recognizing as well that you can you can only heal yourself. You can The only person that can put changes in place is you. So if it's your drama, Jay, and I'm stepping in trying to rescue, giving you advice, telling you what to do, la la la, I'm I'm disempowering you, but I'm not recognizing that the only person that can change your situation is you.
yeah. It's that
Um,
kind of, "Oh, leave it to me, I'll sort it out for you."
yeah,
That's,
yeah,
that doesn't help.
absolutely. No, it doesn't. And rescuers need victims to help.
Yeah,
So they end up enabling victims. So if you're going in rescuing someone, you're encouraging them to stay in that victim modality rather than empowering them to move out of that victim mode and into a space where they feel responsible and able to deal with the issues for themselves.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. You
And
know,
I think it's easy to be in a rescue mode. If I think back a long while back, but if I think back, I can think of definitely one relationship where that I went into where I thought, I can change him. I can change him. He never did change.
No.
It did go down the pan eventually, but it took me a few years to actually see that. Of course, now I understand that I can't change anybody; they can only change themselves. But it is important for us all to kind of be aware of these three roles and how we can easily move through them when we're in a drama type situation, when we've got some kind of drama going on.
Yeah, I think the first part is awareness. If we're aware we're in a role and therefore we're in a drama, then that's step one.
Yeah,
Step two is being able to step out of it and say, well, hang on a minute, I don't need to be in this. So someone's challenging me, someone's having a go at me. What is it they're actually doing? Is it that they're so if it's someone persecuting and you're feeling victim, then is it that the person who's persecuting you has some issue that they need to be dealing with and they're just projecting it onto you because they won't look at themselves? Or is it something that actually you do need to address? Because if you don't need to address it, walk away from it. Don't even get involved in it. Because if
mm.
it's not relevant to you and it's someone else's stuff, then it's their stuff to deal with. They're just projecting it onto you because they can't deal with it or won't deal with it for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where it becomes important to be able to recognize what's your drama and what's somebody else's drama,
Yeah.
what's your stuff, what's somebody else's stuff. Um, And that's why it's so important to step back and respond rather than react to a
React. Yeah.
situation. When you react, you feed a drama. When you step back and respond, you don't feed the drama. You start looking at, is that my stuff? Is that their stuff? It's their stuff. Do I need to do anything? Are they showing me something that I need to address? Yes, okay, I'll deal with that. No, okay, I'll just step away and let them sort it out for themselves. I'm here if they need an ear, but I'm not getting involved because it's not my drama.
Yeah. And that's the difference. We're talking about the rescuer. That's the difference between rescuing and supporting. You can
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely be there to support and listen and be there as an ear and be there as someone to listen to you or listen to them. And you can certainly support by helping people understand options and understand other possibilities so that they can make a more a more well-defined decision, a more informed decision, but not go down that route of, oh, I'll deal with that for you, or oh yes, he's an, if it was an argument, that person's not very nice anyway, is it? You're just then feeding the victim, and yes, you're a victim, and poor you because he's being nasty or she's being nasty to you. Then that's not actually changing anything. It's just feeding that whole the person feeding the victim or in the victim position is then just feeding and reinforcing the fact, yes, you're a victim. It's not actually supporting them and rescuing them and getting them out of that state
Yeah,
that they're actually in.
yeah. So I don't know whether you've ever used this, Jay, but I came across the winners triangle, which is by somebody called Choy. Goes back to 1990, where they look at a more positive approach to dealing with conflict, to help people to see ways of actually breaking out of the drama triangle.
Okay.
So the three roles are the vulnerable, the caring, and the assertive. So if we just look at the different roles, um, in the vulnerable role, um, the person is aware that they're experiencing a challenging time. So it's a bit like in the victim role. The victim can see it's all challenging, but it's the way that they look at things that's different. So in the vulnerable, um, with when somebody is in a vulnerable role, they are open to problem solving by using their own abilities to think and feel, to work out how to meet their needs appropriately. So to me, this is them taking responsibility and saying, okay, I don't like what's going on. It's making me feel uncomfortable. It's making me want to look at things, but they will take that step back and look at the thing and the situation, and try and look at what it is they need to put in place to actually change things. They also accept no and respect no as well. So if someone says no, they can't help them, they don't take it personally. They recognize, whereas a victim would take it very personally.
Yeah.
But when you're in the vulnerable role, you don't take it personally in the same way. And you recognize that the person that's saying, no, I can't help you at this point in time, is not a bad person. They've just got their own stuff going on.
Yeah.
So it's quite a shift, isn't it, from victim into vulnerable.
Yes.
Um, so so when the person shifts from victim into vulnerable, they're looking for ways themselves to resolve their issues, um, and to open up opportunities to help them to make the changes they need to.
Yeah. So a question they could ask is, how can I get what I really want in a healthy way?
Yes.
So they're looking for the outcome that they want, but in a healthy way.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So if we look at the caring role then, so in the caring role, the person cares about others in a way that, similar like the rescuer does,
Mm-hmm.
but they have respect for others and their ability to think and feel for themselves, and to ask for their needs to be met. So rather than giving someone a fait accompli or giving them a load of advice, I'll sort that out for you. They will listen, be empathetic, have no judgment, but they won't advise. They'll just allow the person to come to their own decision,
Yeah.
to make their own choices, and respect them for that. So I think part of the caring role is what you were saying a few minutes ago about the importance of the ability to listen and be a sounding board without actually telling people what to do.
Yeah. I'm willing to listen to your problem, but I'm not going to make it mine. I'm not going to solve it for
Yeah,
you. It's not mine to solve, but I will listen to you and support you.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, and also the thing that's important with the caring role is that they recognise their own needs. So this comes back to the serving yourself,
Yes.
first of all, so they can say no in an honest and respectful way to somebody, so that they are serving their needs. So they're not getting caught up in a drama. They've got stuff of their own going on. They can't cope. They haven't got the energy to listen to somebody else at this point in time. It doesn't mean they don't care. It's just they've got their own stuff going on, and they recognize that, and they're able to say, I can't do this now, but I could do 2 days time. Why don't we meet for coffee? Whatever it is. So it's not a blank no, I'm never going to help you. It's, I can't do this now, and they're comfortable with
Yeah.
saying that. So I think that's important. And then the assertive role. Um, so that the person's still actively wanting to get their needs met, but they're doing it without doing it at the expense of others. So when someone's in the persecutor role, they're trying to get their own way, but it's at the expense of other people.
Yeah.
Whereas when they've shifted into the assertive role, they want to meet their own needs without punishing others, without causing problems for others. They recognise that they may need to put negotiation skills into place to change a situation. They might not need to do specific things. And they recognise that they need to stand in their own power to be able to do that, rather than try and take power away from other people and do it in a more aggressive way, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So
So
it comes down to stating and then asserting boundaries.
yes, yeah. So it's just a shift, isn't it, from the drama triangle?
Yeah.
If you recognize the role that you're in the drama triangle, and then can make that shift, that conscious shift into the roles of the winner's triangle, you take that need for drama away, and you allow yourself to look at things from more responsive
Yes.
way rather than a reactive way.
Yeah.
Does that
Drama
make sense?
triangle is reactive for sure.
Yeah, and the winner's triangle is responsive.
Responsive. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just learning to recognize when you've moved into those roles. And it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
Um I was very much in victim role 2 or 3 weeks ago. There was something going on, and it was like, whoa, hang on a minute, Sarah, you're in victim role. Step out of it, sort it out. um, but it happens to us all. But it's that recognition, isn't it? It's the awareness. If you've got the awareness to start with, you can stop yourself and you
Yes.
can go, hang on a minute, what am I doing here? Let's take a step back. Let's have a little look here. Am I trying to rescue somebody, or am I being caring? Am I, you know, am I being self-serving, or am I being demanding and wanting to actually have certain things put in place no matter what the cost to other people? It's just taking that real big step back and look at yourself and look at what's going on, so that you can make the changes that you need to make, because no one's going to rescue you. They're not. They might try, but they're not going to rescue you. No one's going to put changes in place for you. The only person that can do that is you.
Yeah. I think an interesting thing about this is now, for someone who's just come across this drama triangle recently, for example, I mean, I've known it about a few years. So, but
You too.
for someone that's just come across this, it'll be interesting. Just watch what's going on around you. Watch how friends and family interact. Watch what goes on in other people's lives, and you will see drama triangles all around you. It could be, you go shopping to buy something and someone's having a go at somebody so someone's persecuting a shop assistant because something's not on the shelf that they want, for example. So they could be criticizing the company, they could be criticizing the individual, they could be, oh well, I want this, and now they fall into victim mode and say, you never have that in when I come in, I'm always having to. So it can be this, you can watch this happening around you in real time, and it's fascinating to start watching and observing how this plays out for other people, because it then gives you a greater awareness of when you're falling into it.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's much easier to see it in other people than
Yeah.
it is to see it in yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Unless you're caught up in a big drama, and then it's like, oh, hang on a minute, what's going on here? But yeah, it's very easy to not recognize it in yourself. But if you observe others and observe it going on around you, it gives you a greater awareness so that you can observe when you're doing it yourself, so that you can shift out of the drama triangle and into the winner's triangle, so that you take responsibility, so that you are supportive rather than a rescuer, so that you've moved out of the victim role and into the vulnerable, so that you recognize that there's things going on that need sorting out and you can deal with it, so that you move out of persecutor into the assertive role, so that you feel empowered to deal with the situation yourself as well. So it just having that awareness, I think, is so important, isn't it? When you've got an awareness of something, it's the first step to
Yes.
being able to make changes. If you don't have the awareness, then you can't change it.
Well, that's it. You can't change what you don't know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely. So it does fascinate me, actually. I do a lot of people watching when I get time to um, sit and watch people, um, because it fascinates me how people interact still. And of course, when you're being heart-centered and heart-led, it's a lot easier to move yourself into the winner's triangle and out of the drama triangle.
Yes.
Because when you're looking at things from a place of love, you kind of look at things from a different perspective. So you start to recognize that that person only knows what they know, so they're doing the best that they can at this particular moment in time. That that person. You don't know what their journey's been. You don't know what happened when they got out of bed this morning. You don't know whether they've had an argument with their spouse
Yeah.
before getting in the car, or whether somebody cut them up on the motorway and scared the living daylights out of them, um, and just missed them, or whatever it might be. You start to look with a lot more compassion. So moving into that heart-centered space makes it a lot easier to be responsive rather than reactive, and shift into the winner's triangle. Because when you're in the winner's triangle, it's a win-win for everybody, isn't it?
Yes.
Because you're putting yourself first, and dealing with your needs and what's for your highest good, and for the highest good of all, you're also able to support people properly and empower them, and you're asserting yourself rather than being aggressive, which is you standing in your own power and being your best self.
Yeah, and it's coming from a place of solution. So you're looking for a
Yeah.
solution rather than just blame and not trying to find a solution, just trying to shift the blame onto somebody else.
Yes, absolutely. And it's recognizing as well that you had a part to play in that. And
Yes.
it doesn't matter what's happened, it's I mean, my relationship with our mother was was not the best. And I did go through years of blaming her for it. It was her fault, the way she treated me. Well, actually, I allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
So I had a part to play in that. And I recognize now, I understand now that that was part of my journey and part of making me who I am now. But it was an important thing for me to recognize, was that actually she wasn't to blame for it all. It was down to me. It was down to me and the way that I handled it. It was down to me agreeing to have that experience with her, to help me to grow, to help me to look at things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And of course, once I started to understand that, it changed our relationship completely. So, it is about recognizing as well that we all have a part to play in any drama that's our drama, and we've probably created that ourselves because we need to learn something, and so we need to be looking at it and putting our hands up and going, oh, hold on a minute, maybe that might be something that I need to be dealing with, because it's something that that actually I've had a big part to play in. So yeah, it's a fascinating subject for me. You might have gathered.
Well, for me too. It's one of the things that I think it's probably come up in maybe not every coaching conversation I've had, but certainly in every coaching client I've had. At some point, the drama triangle's come up, and talking about not getting sucked into it, and just being aware. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a life-changing skill once you realise
yes,
what
definitely.
what it
Once you
is.
realize what you're doing
Yeah,
and how you can change it, and how you can step into a more positive way of dealing with things, it is a big life-changing skill, definitely.
excellent.
Probably a topic we could touch on again at
Yeah,
some time in the not too distant future, because I think there's a lot that goes with it, and we could talk for ages. but 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 I kind of feel like we're at a good place to stop at this point in time. So hopefully, listeners, that will give you some understanding of the drama triangle, and how you can shift yourself into the winner's triangle, so that you put positive slant on everything, so that you can deal with it and move yourself through the drama and out the other side.
absolutely. Awesomeness.
Awesomeness.
Yes.
Excellent. Lovely. Thank you very much for your time, Jay, as
Thank you.
always.
Yeah,
Good to catch up with you.
you
Good
too.
to catch up with your listeners. And until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.